Good morning, everyone. Sir, good morning. So, since we are done with the chapter 5 entitled A Typical and Atypical Development of a Child, so now let's proceed to the chapter 6, which is entitled Learners with Additional Needs. So, I am your first discussant for this session. Let's discuss the first topic of the chapter 6, which is learners who are gifted and talented. So now, let's differentiate between gifted and talented learners. So gifted learners are those learners have the abilities in one or more subjects such as math and science, while talking about the talented learners, these are learners who have practical skills such as sports, music, designs, and performing arts. So, learners who are gifted and talented. So, first let's read the definitions. So, learners who are gifted and talented are students with higher abilities than average and are often referred to as gifted students. So, this group refers to the students whose talents, abilities, and potentials are developmentally advanced. So, um, as what I have stated earlier, that when we talk about gifted and talented learners, this pertains to learners have um, their critical thinking skills are advanced and they're in more required some activities so that could develop their mental skills, both mental skills and ano, physical skills. So they require special provision to meet their educational needs, thus presenting a unique challenge to teachers. As a so as a teacher, it is very challenging to handle those gifted and talented learners because these learners are got easily bored when a lessons is being repeated. So, as a teacher, you develop or you design instruction plus you design different lessons every day to meet their educational needs. So, they often finish tasks ahead and might ask for more creative tasks or exercise. So, exciting and energizing activities should be provided to continuously keep them motivated. So, these learners, they they easily or immediately finish the task ahead of time since they are more capable, they are more knowledgeable enough in handling those tasks. So there is also another way to look into giftedness, which is conceptualized by Gardner in 1993. So now let's proceed to the next slides to see the conceptualizations of Gardner. As what you have seen in these slides, we have the different intelligences or what we call multiple intelligences. So first we have the bodily kinesthetic. So bodily kinesthetic, this pertains to students who are good in dancing or good in dancing. And second is interpersonal or the people smart. So this pertains to students who have the good communications with others or social acting with others. So next, we have the verbal, linguistic, or word smart. This pertains to students who are good in verbal reasoning or linguistic approach. Next, we have the logical, mathematical, or logic smart. So this pertains to students who are good in problem solving in math. Next, we have the nature smart. This pertains to, of course, this pertains to a students who are good in environment. You have the care or you have the empathy to the environment. So next, we have self smart or what we call the intrapersonal. So this pertains to yourself, so how you manage yourself or the self management. Next you have the visuals, spatial or picture smart. So this pertains to someone who are good in capturing or editing a picture. So next, let's proceed to the identifications of a learners who are gifted and talented. So To identify gifted and talented students, one must do the following. So first first locate the student's domain of giftedness. So we'll know that we have different domain of giftedness. We have the intellectual, the academic, the creative, the leadership, and visual or performing arts. So as a teacher, you first locate which the students belong according to the domain of giftedness. So it's very important to locate the domain of giftedness in order for us to design or develop a lessons which are suited to their domain of giftedness. So second, we have described the student's level of giftedness. So we all know that our learners are diverse. So it is very important to identify or to describe the level of giftedness. So talking about the level of giftedness, we have the mildly gifted, which is 115 to 130 level of level of giftedness. We have also the moderately gifted, that is 130 to 145 level of giftedness, and highly gifted, which is 145 to 160 giftedness, and profoundly giftedness, this is 160 or more. Next is describe the students' fields of talent. So since our students are diverse, so therefore their talents also are diverse. So it is very important as a teacher to describe of which the students is good in that specific talent, so that they could nurture and improve more. Now let's proceed to the learning characteristics of a children who are gifted and talented. So accordingly to the slide, not all learners will exhibit the learning characteristics listed below. However, these are the common manifestations or gifted and talented learners. So first, we have the high level of intellectual curiosity. So since they are gifted, no, so their minds their minds cannot be kanang dili siya mag-stick to one idea. So they have more developed their mind, and yes, they are always curious all the time. So they need to have the answer of their curiosity. So second is reads actively. So since they are no anang they are extraordinary, no, so their mind cannot be bilang siya magpundo sa isa ka lugar. So sometimes students really love reading. So we know that we all know that through reading it could give us more ideas, or could give us kanang learning. So third, we have the high degree of task commitment. So this pertains to kanang students got easily finish the task on time. Next, we have they gets bored easily. So as what I mentioned earlier, that those learners who are gifted, a teacher must do or designs a lessons that is kanang dili siya magbalik-balik lang, or kumbaga in other words, a teacher should develop different lessons a day. So next, we have can retain and recall information. So learners who are gifted, no, so they can easily recall or recap the informations. um dili sila easily nga they cannot easily forget one information. So next, we have excited about learning new concepts. Those learners are gifted, so they are more excited to learn new concepts. So as what I have said earlier, that a lesson should not be stagnate, and a lesson should be a teacher should develop a lesson differently so that learners are gifted, so that learners can learn new concepts. Next, we have the independence and learning. So, of course, these learners are independent. So, they learn independently, they solve or they finish the task independently. So next, we have good comprehensions of complex context. So of course, students who are gifted are really good in comprehensions. So if the context or the concepts are being complex, so they easily they easily get the idea or they easily comprehend the idea. So next we have strong or well developed imagination. So those learners who are gifted, no, their minds are tends to imagined or imagines something or imagined or visualize something. So manto siya given na siyang sa ilaa. So next we have looks for new ways to do things and often gives uncommon responses to common questions. So of course, kung ako lang man no, kung ako ang gifted student, so I would never respond common questions. So of course, I would go to response with uncommon questions. So next, let's go to the general educational adaptations. So accordingly to the slide, learners who are gifted and talented usually get bored since they have mastered the concepts taught in class. So one thing that is common among gifted students is that they are very inquisitive. So when we talk about inquisitive, this is pertains to curiosity of their minds. Fulfilling their instructional needs may be a challenging task. These are suggested strategies for teaching gifted students. So first, we have the teachers may give enrichment exercises that will allow learners to study the same topic at more advanced level. So when we talk about enrichment exercises, this pertains or enrichment activities, a this pertains to activities that would help learners to develop their skills, learn new things that will helpful for their life. So, such as music lessons, literacy, life lessons, and many more. Is we have the accelerations can let students who are gifted and talented can move at their own pace, thus resulting at times to in completing two grade levels in one school. Next, we have the open-ended activities with no right or wrong answers can be provided, emphasizing on divergent thinking wherein there are more possibilities than predetermined answers. Um, So when we talk about the open-ended activities, this involved explorations and physical activity. So in this, children allowed to use imaginations and do things and do things that they are curious about. Leader, Now let's proceed to the general educational adaptations. Leadership roles can be given to gifted students since these studies have shown that gifted students are often socially immature. So this pertains sometimes the students who are gifted are considered as the socially immature because of the advancement of their mind and their attitudes, their behavior, and yes. So next we have the extensive reading on subjects at extensive reading on subjects of their own interest may be coordinated with the school librarian to further broaden their knowledge. So if if the students are so in this specific bullet now, so it pertains to a librarian to facilitate to facilitate the students who are gifted if they are going to read some materials or some reading books to for them to able to broaden their ideas, to widen their range of knowledge, to widen their perspective and their ideas as well. So long-term activities may be provided that will give to gifted students an opportunity to be engaged for an extended period of time. So since students who are gifted and talented or get easily to board, so we have to kanang we have to offered or give them long-term activities, no. In that activities, long-term activities, they could develop or they could explore their knowledge, their skills, yes, such as the role play, the play though, and the experiments. These are the these are open-ended activities that is long-term activities. Now let's proceed to the next topic, which is the learners with difficult seeing. So talking about difficult seeing, this pertains to a student um, who have the problem of the problem of So next, let's proceed to the learners with difficult seeing, or those learners who have problem of their eye. So first, let's read the definitions. So students in the classroom will exhibit different levels of clarity of eyesight or visual acuity. So we have different level of clarity or visual acuity. So when we talk about level of visual acuity, we have we have mild mild visual acuity, which average to 6/12 to 6/18. We have the moderate visual acuity, worse than 6/15 to 6/20/60, and severe visual visual is 6. Severe visual acuity worse than 6/60 to 3/60. And of course the last one, which is the blindness, that is 3/60. So, there may be some students with hampered or restricted visions. Learners with difficulty seeing are those with issues regarding sight that interfere with academics. So, the definition from Individuals with Disabilities Education Act or IDEA states that an impairment in vision that, even with corrections, adversely affects a child's educational performance, which includes both partial sight and blindness. These students may need to have their eyesight corrected by wearing glasses or other optical devices. So as based on these slides, no, so students who have problems with their eyesight can be a barrier or can affect their academic performance. So of course, if they have the visual impairment or problem with their eyes, they couldn't focus or they couldn't understand, since they couldn't see the the lessons. So so we'll know that our eyes is a big factor to understand a lesson. So it is really different to see lessons compared to hear the lesson. So it is very important to provide them a kind of eyesight corrected, such as wearing glasses or other optical devices to support their needs, so that they could able to learn, or so that they won't be left behind the um, the lesson. Next is, let's proceed to identifications. Learners with difficulty seeing often have physical signs such as crossed eyes. So crossed eyes is there. Talking about crossed eyes. So talking about crossed eyes, it is a common condition in which with eyes do not look at the same place and at the same time. So kumbaga mara siya og sa Bisaya nga term is mara siya ganang libat, or yang mata diri na direction, dili siya kumbaga dili equal ilang direction, so dili siya same, this same position, dili sila ang ilang mata dili same position. So we have the squinting, no, it is where the eyes point in the different directions, kumbaga na siya diri sa duol ay isa pa na diri sa layo, different direction, kaning eyeball na siya diri, yung isa pa na siya diri sa pikas, or vice versa. We have also the eyes that turned outwards. So eyes that turn outwards, it is kanang extraporia, which is or misaligned eyes, and in which one or both of their eyes turns outward. Kumbaga nigawas na siya, ninganap ta siya, nigawas ang iyang mara siya to turn outward yang directions yang mata. They may also be clumsy. So when I talk about clumsy, it is a kanang, it pertains to awkwardness in moving, no. So we all know that children who are difficulty in seeing move couldn't move easily, or they feel the awkwardness if they move, since they couldn't clearly see, or couldn't clearly see or cannot see the surroundings, or things that they are surround them. So usually bumping into objects, which causes them to fall down. They like to sit near the instructional materials, or at times would stand up and go near the visual aid. So in this specific difficulty, no, so learners are, if so as a teacher, if we encountered the children who are difficulty in seeing, it's either visual impairment. So example, visual impairment. So we should put that specific student in the front, in the front row, so that they could clearly see the lessons, and they could understood the lesson. So learners with difficulty seeing may also show poor eye-hand coordination. So of course, if the eye are affected, of course your writing capability also affected. So if you couldn't or you cannot clearly see the instructions, so it could also affect your writing directions. So this can be seen in their handwriting or poor performance in sporting activities. Another indication is poor academic performance, as these students might have difficulty reading as well as writing. So of course, no, children who are difficulty in seeing, they couldn't read the materials they couldn't read the materials fastly, or they couldn't. Learners with difficulty seeing also show poor eye-hand coordination. So of course, if children who have difficulty in seeing, also the way they write also are affected. If it could also be a a problem of their academic performance. So another indications is poor academic performance, as these students might have difficulty reading as well as writing. So of course, students who have difficulty in seeing couldn't read couldn't read fastly, or they couldn't read the the instructions given by the teachers, and of course it could affect their academic performance. Now let's proceed to the learning characteristics of the learners who have difficulty in seeing. So good visual ability is critical in learning. Most school lessons are done through blackboard writing, presentations, or handouts in most major subjects. We all know that a teacher should the most common the most uh, so we all know that a teacher um now let's proceed to the learning characteristics. So accordingly to this slide, good visual ability is critical in learning. Most school lessons are done through blackboard writing, presentations, or handouts in most major subjects. Visual impairments, whether mild, moderate, severe, affect the student's ability to participate in normal classroom activities. So in the past, students who are visually impaired are placed in special institutions. Nowadays, most are enrolled with other children who are not visually impaired. So, um, this is very challenging for a teacher if they could encounter this kind of students, especially in normal schools. So for instance, if the students are being mixed with the normal students, so a teacher should give attentions or should have the big adjustments since since he or she have a normal students and she has a students um who have difficulty in seeing or who have um who are disabled. So the instructions of course, the instructions here or the lessons are not being balanced. So, of course, they should land folk time on the children who are visually impaired or who have the difficulty in seeing. So, learners with difficulty seeing have restricted ways to learn incidentally from their surroundings since most of them learn through visual key clues. Because of this, the other senses are used to acquire knowledge due to the limited ability to explore the environment. Low motivations to discover is present. So in this specific slide now, it talks about the other senses of this of the learners. So if the learners have the difficulty in seeing, so he have the ability to hear. So he could also use hearing as a way to learn or to understand the concepts, but it is very different if you have the if you have if you have if you have the ability to see or you are not visually impaired. So next slide. D. General education applications. Modifications in teaching is needed to accommodate students with difficulty in seeing, so the following strategies may be concerned. So first, we have, if the use of books is part of your lessons, students with difficulty seeing should be informed ahead of time so that they can be ordered in braille or in an audio or recorded format. So as a teacher, no, it is very challenging if we encounter this kind of students kasi it takes more time or it takes a lot of time to prepare your lessons to what are the things needed in order to sustain the learnings of your students. So if the lessons are required to use books, no, to use books, so you have to inform your students um so that they could prepare or they could so that they can be ordered in braille. So Braille, accordingly, Braille is a form of written language for blind people. Or, yes, for blind people. Or as a teacher, you could also use a recorded format. So you record your lessons, and then you present you present to the students through you present the students because they still can hear, so they can still able to understand the lessons. Next, we have the portions of textbooks and other printed materials may be recorded so that visually impaired students can listen instead of focusing on the visual presentations. So if you have the printed materials, example the dog, na example a dog are being printed, so since they couldn't see, so you record that, so you have to record, no, that inside of the book or inside of the specific pages there is a dog. So through, of course, through recording. Next, all words written on the board should be read clearly. So this pertains to students who have visual impairment lang. So of course, as a teacher, you should all your words written in the board should be clear so that they could clearly see, or they could clearly so they could clearly see the text and they could clearly understand the lesson. So next, we have the students with difficulty seeing should be seated near the board so that they can easily move close to the instructional materials used during the lesson. So if you have, as a teacher, if you have encountered those children who are visually impaired, so you put them on the first row. So kasi if you are going to put at the back, so it may be affect there, it could be problem for them since they have the impairment. So as a teacher, you put your students in the first row so that they could see your instructions or you could see your lessons. Next, a body can be assigned to a student with difficulty seeing as needed. So as soon as possible, if that students have the difficulty, no, or have the disordered, so it should have someone to facilitate or to guide them, or a body that will guide him or her. So this can be crucial to assist in the mobility of the students, such as going to the other places and school during the day. So it is very difficult to it is very difficult to students if he could go around the school, if he could or she could go, example if the students who are visually impaired or who have difficult in seeing, example if he could go to the library and the library are away from his classroom, so he needs someone to guide him to go to the library. Students with difficulty seeing might need more time to complete a task or homework. Of course, they couldn't easily finish the task. Unlike the gifted and talented students, they are more on, they can easily finish the task. So in this students who have the difficulty in seeing, they couldn't easily finish the task, or they consume a lot of time to finish the task since they have the impairment or they have the problems in seeing. So teachers should be aware of terminology that would require visual acuity, such as over there or like this one, which the impaired student may not possess. So teachers should avoid such as over there like this one, because it it could it could create a problem of the learners. So sometimes malibog sila, or sometimes malibog sila kung sa to siya since they couldn't see the materials. Next, teachers should monitor the students closely to know who needs extra time in completing the task. So as teachers, it's your responsibility to monitor, to facilitate your students, for you to give the learnings that they deserve. So I think that ends with my report. Thank you for listening. Good morning once again.